Hey guys, it's Lance at Mac Sound Solutions, and today we're going to take the LuluLook iPad magnetic charging stand for a test spin and see if we can get it set up with my Mac Mini to look a little bit like the old iMac G4. So I've been on the lookout for an iPad stand for a long time, and I finally found one. I didn't want one that grips the iPad where you have like the handles are kind of on the top and the bottom or on the sides sticking out. I wanted something that was magnetic and I could just place it onto the stand without having to stretch out those two levers to get it to hold the iPad. And this stand fixes that problem, plus you can charge your iPad using it. The fact you can plug in the USB-C port on the back and it's got the iPad charging connector, you're not always plugging in your USB-C cable into the USB-C port on the iPad. They eventually do wear out. I had an iPad Pro, the first gen, and it stopped charging, and I had to get that USB-C port replaced, and it was very expensive. So this takes a little wear and tear off the iPad's USB-C port. And you can rotate your iPad in vertical or landscape mode. When I first found it, it reminded me of the old iMac G4, which was one of my favorite Apple designs of all time. It's just so cool, and the screen articulated so easily. You could basically use 1-2 fingers to move it around. Probably the best monitor arm ever made. And this dude modded out an original iMac G4 with a Mac Mini M4 and put it inside, wired it up, and got it all working, which is really incredible. And he's got a custom board for things like the USB ports and HDMI, etc. Kudos to him. I'd love to have one, but I'm going the easy route. And my setup, while not as cool, can still do a few things his can't. Rumors have it that Apple's going to be making a touchscreen monitor, so why not bring this baby back with a touchscreen? That would be sweet. So I'm going to do my best to turn my iPad and my Mac Mini into an iMac G4, which really is not the case, but you get the idea. So we're going to use this USB-C video capture card. These things only cost about $20. So HDMI from the output of the Mac Mini into the USB capture card, and then we just plug that into our iPad. Then we're going to launch an app called Miani, which is a free app on the App Store, which is going to allow us to use that USB-C capture card to bring in our video signal from the Mac Mini. So HDMI out of the Mac Mini to the video capture card into the iPad via USB-C, and then we're booting up our Mac Mini, and there it is. Our Mac's desktop is on the screen, and we can now access it using our usual keyboard and mouse that's connected to the Mini. And I'm just going to put in my user password. I'm going to log into my account, and then we're going to enable Sidecar to the iPad so we can use it as a full screen. Unfortunately, there's no other way to do this without logging in and using this app first. You can't just use your iPad as a monitor for your Mac Mini. Unfortunately, Apple doesn't let you do that, but this is the workaround, and it's really simple. And while using the video capture card doesn't look bad, Sidecar looks better and fills the entire screen, as opposed to like a 16:9 1080p video signal. So we go up to screen mirroring in the menu bar, and I'm going to mirror to my iPad Pro. And there we go. We now have full screen iPad OLED display and the Mac Mini working together without any other monitors connected. There are some system settings to be aware of, otherwise this can get a little quirky. Because you've got that video signal still coming in from the HDMI, the Mac Mini thinks there's two monitors running, right? So when you first enable Sidecar, you want to choose Mirror HDMI to USB. You do not want to use as an extended display. Because you're only using one monitor, you're not going to see the other monitor. And then you want to set the iPad Pro to be your main display. And then you're going to set the HDMI to USB to mirror the iPad Pro. So basically, iPad Pro is the main monitor, and the HDMI to USB is just exact copy of the main monitor, which you're not even seeing because you're looking at the iPad. You're no longer looking at the Miani app in iPad OS. One downside is if you unplug the USB-C cable, the iPad is going to revert back to the iPad screen, iPad OS, and you'll lose your Sidecar connection. so you have to leave it plugged in. But because the LuluLook has a charging input, you can keep charging your iPad while you're using it as a monitor. And you could connect a hub to the USB port on the iPad and still use your video capture card if you have a USB-C 10 gigabit port on that hub. So check this out. I'm playing back a video on the Mac Mini, and now I just swiped up and moved continuity down to the dock. So the monitor for the Mac Mini is just pushed away like any normal iPad app, right? That's the continuity icon down there. And now I'm playing a video on iPad OS. This gives you the ability to switch between iPad and your Mac on the same monitor. You can't do that with a regular monitor. So I'm going to switch out of the iPad and I'm going back to continuity, back to our Mac Mini monitor. And this is an amazing thing. I can use this stylus, which is not an Apple Pencil. It's super cheap. I'll link it below. It's on Amazon. And you can use it in Mac OS with your iPad. You can't do that with your finger, but you can do it with a stylus because it's essentially a Bluetooth stylus. So it acts like a Bluetooth mouse as far as Mac OS is concerned. And I can't use my finger on the iPad in Mac OS, but I can use the stylus. And we'll just check out a quick Cyberpunk 2077. You can get it to play back at the full 16:10 aspect ratio. And I was surprised at the performance. I have this set to the highest resolution for the iPad, and I did use frame gen. Without frame gen, I was getting about 42 frames per second, but with frame gen, I was getting almost 100. So you can see gameplay is very smooth. It looks great because it's an OLED. And unfortunately, Apple doesn't let you use high refresh rates with Sidecar. I'm using the latest macOS Golden Gate Developer Beta 2 here, and I do think the frame rates have increased on the games, but you do not get any higher than 60 Hertz when doing this over the air, and I tried it wired as well. It didn't seem to make any difference. But supposedly there's less compression when you're connected to your iPad directly to the Mini, but of course then you got to use a second monitor to be able to turn on Sidecar. Apple should really just let you use your iPad as a monitor, then you wouldn't have to go through all of this. Now this stand rotates really easily. I wish they put a lock on it so you could just keep it from rotating when you don't want it to rotate, and then moving it up and down, you can see it takes two hands. You got to hold the base down to be able to move the arm. It's too tight and there's no way to adjust the tension. So, most of the time you're going to get it in the position you want and just leave it that way. And the magnet is really strong, but you really got to grab it with two hands if you want to reposition the arm. And that's a little bit of a pain. But the build quality is super nice, and the arm being stiff is okay because when you're tapping on your iPad, you really don't want the iPad moving around. And I found if I use the stand this way where the iPad is resting on my desktop, then it really is rock solid. It doesn't slip around at all, and I can tap away to my heart's content. And I use my iPad a lot for music production, so this stand is like perfect to have it over by my mixer, and I can use it for different apps that I use on Pro Tools, either running in Sidecar mode or in iPad mode. And the fact that it's charging without having a cable sticking out of the side of my iPad is very clean for my desk as well. I mean, there's many uses for this stand. It could be used for restaurants, businesses, kiosks, it's very flexible. And I like to move my iPad between my two computer setups, so it's very easy to just, move it into the next room, but you do have to, of course, unplug your USB-C cable first before walking off with the iPad. And of course, you can use it without charging the iPad. So thanks to LuluLook for sending it over. I'll leave a link in the video description if you want to pick one of these up. And thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next Mac Sound Solutions video.